Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Any minute, motherfucker.
Says
all right, so Helen, welcome to the Black Tower in the sacred.
Any minute, motherfucker. Oh, see?
Yeah.
No, that
you muted it.
No, the whatchamacallit wasn't muted apparently. But all right, technical stuff over. Go on.
You fucked up my whole intro.
I'm telling you, it's weird.
Fucked up my intro.
Mercury retrograde, bro.
Fuck retro Mercury Gatorade bullshit.
Anyway. Gatorade or some shit.
So, Helen, welcome to the Black Tower and the sacred names of death. Be welcome. It's good to see every single one of you guys here tonight. Curious story here. So I decided that for tonight I would start the intro with a hail and a salute unto the many names and faces of death, her or itself, however you view it. The reason being is because my good friend and brother Nick here and I are going to be discussing magical transformation and the inner alchemy of the adept. How to realize you're a fucking natural badass.
I just love that term and that explanation with the transformation and the alchemy, because I think that a lot of people take they see magic as something that they can do externally. They can manifest something, or they can screw somebody else up. But I think in my own personal practice, a lot of it has just been working on fixing myself, and that's partially because I'm a very reflective person, a metacognitive person, but also because I always want to try to get better, and because I work with magic and I work with like the Simon Necronomicon and stuff, I work with the different, like the 50 names of Marduk and other spirits about, help me figure this out, help me be better at this and better at that.
Hell yeah. I think that that's what any of us actually do. Because first and foremost, you gotta. It's one thing to want to be magical and to be powerful, but to do this, first off, you have to realize that it all comes from inside yourself. So, of course, real work begins within. I know most people don't like to hear this. They like to think you're just a natural, magical, know-it-all and powerful and can do this and can do that. Some people can and some people can't, all based on different levels of not consciousness, awareness, I should say. But before we get started, let's do some shout outs. We got Christo Pagan, Magic with us. That's Brian. That's Brian, by the way. We ain't seen him in years.
Yeah, I haven't. He hasn't commented on a video in a long time until I made one about sigils, and apparently he's that's what he's into now currently. So I'm gonna have plenty more sigil stuff coming up.
Hell yeah! Plus, me and him sometime are gonna be doing a video together.
Yes.
We got Freighter, Nabo, Agrippa, Frank Cutter, Bam Bam Bumble, man, dude, that is a mouthful, but I like the name. And of course, one of my favorite brothers, John Vermillion, and we got Dave Bugman here in Darius Bay, Felix Satana Set Conjure Witch. Helen, welcome to you. Good to have you all of you here. Mad Magician Kairos. Well, what is Magickology doing in there? I thought you were on here with me, dude. Just kidding.
I'm in both places.
Yeah, right.
I have perfected astral projection.
Oh yeah. And Drago Orion, howdy from Texas. Well, howdy from Alabama. And where Nick there's from.
The Northeast. What's up?
Shout out. No, motherfuckers. All right, Milton Knowles. So anyway, so I think I got through the greetings to everybody, and to all of you who are hiding and not typing, that's cool. Welcome to the Black Tower. In the name of death, you're welcome. What's so important about death, though, Nick? And I want to kind of toss this out there a bit. In the beginning, transformation and change, and the way that I did this back, 24 years ago, 25 years ago. Using the death current. Of course, at the time I was young, so I used the form of Azrael, the angel of death, because it was as close to the Christianity programming that I was coming out of. later on coming to find out that even angels, having been connected to religions, weren't necessarily parts of religion. As you and I both know through a lot of extensive research, that angels or these winged beings have been around since well before the term or these so-called religions, social constructs.
Yep. I mean, they've a lot of different entities and things have taken on different names depending on the spiritual system that has like either spoken of them or applied them. So
Oh yeah,
definitely been around probably even before people, I would argue.
yeah, right. Well, I want to before we get started though, few things. First off, we have an Aurora Collins. She made me a very, very beautiful Native American choker,
Ooh.
signed to my specifications. And I would be wearing it tonight, but with the subject that we're having with death, instead I went with my Arcana 13 Santa Marta Mala uh, to keep it in the influence, keep the right energies going. Uh, but yeah, I had uh, I had a feeling though that death was literally the key. For the last 2.5 weeks, I've been going through a Saya called Luxa and was having a. It's cool and all to get in connection with your oversoul and all this other stuff, and it comes across like a parent and you're the child and you're not listening and you're not doing what it wants you to do. Well, those of us that have been doing this for long, extended periods of time, that is a little bit of a test to see if we're going to stand up for ourselves, if we're going to be like, you're right, I didn't do what I was supposed to. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And so it was a hell of a transition for me. So I've been kind of silent for about 2 weeks ever since the video interview with John. I had to literally step the fuck back and out of the light a bit. I had a lot of working to do, and I had to come back full circle. And in doing so, was reminded that death is kind of like the middle path. Death is the neutral point, the one from which you deign which step you take. If that makes any sense.
That was a lot, man. That was deep. I mean, I don't know if I can unpack that because that was just super, super deep. I mean, you want me to give my perspective on death a little bit?
Yeah, I'd love to hear it, man, dude.
I mean, you take a look at the death card in the tarot, right?
Yeah.
What does it mean? It means transformation. A lot of beliefs are that like death is really just a change from one state or one plane to the other. There's even a poem that's like says something about I'm in the next room. So it's, and then you take the descent of Ishtar, right, where her going into the underworld and dying, which I have to put my foot on my soapbox and say that was the first story about going into the underworld and coming back 3 days later, that some other spiritual systems liked to plagiarize. But the idea of her going down past the gates and shedding all of her armor and everything and then being born anew demonstrates that death is really a transformative thing. And I even have a Witch's Book of the Dead that I got for one of my birthdays, where you go through different you can go through these different rituals according to each cardinal direction on a certain aspect of, or a visualization of, or a guided meditation about death. And I was even watching this video by Alan Watts, if anyone's ever heard of him, because that guy just blows my mind. Where the idea of what's the purpose of life? Well, I mean, you could argue that there really isn't, because we're here and I could do whatever the heck I want. I could stop breathing right now if I chose to. I could advance myself. I could write more books. I could just sit. But the inevitable change, that one of the things that you can't control and you have to be comfortable with, and you have to really you can work with it in a magical and symbolic sense, is death.
Yeah. I got a crazy question for you though. what is your own personal ideal of death itself? Like that you work with, like if it's in a what is the form of death that you employ in your workings?
Um,
Have one.
I mean, I I think that it's just more or less the aspect of death keeps my fear in check. With what do I have to lose, you know, and even you can kind of compartmentalize death where you can kind of take different parts of yourself and kill them off if you like them or if you don't like them.
Yeah.
And through if anyone's ever heard of the IOB technique where you externalize a an aspect of yourself and you destroy it, and this may have to be done repetitively. I've done that a few times to change my own behaviors. And so it's you're transforming yourself by killing part of you off. And you know, there's Stephen King says, everything is on loan anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and so nothing's permanent, everything's on loan. So that's what drives me to do what I want, and that's one of my main pushes because, like I said, what do I have to lose?
Yeah.
So I kind of use that as a fuel in magic because, well, I'm here. I might as well try my best and see what I can do while I'm still on this plane.
Fuck yeah. That's dude. That whole explanation just kind of blows my mind, and here's why. Uh, you would think that as long as I've been doing this, that the last 2.5 weeks wouldn't have fucking happened. And like someone had earlier said about all these planets in retrograde, because there are quite a few of them. So so it is a retrograde apocalypse, all right. But all retrograde ever means is that instead of an external change or effect, you need to focus all that attention inside to where those planets correspond
Yep.
so that you can work through them. The weird thing though is, and I will say this, is like with Mercury retrograde, for example, how it affects electronics and everything else. Like Nick here, totally screwing up my intro, and I'm just kidding. Love you, brother. But stuff like that. Now that does happen. Things of that nature. Uh, so forth and so on. And this works with all the planets when they go into retrograde. But typically, what you want to do is you want to totally focus inward. The attention of where you're putting your thoughts,
Yep.
so that you can sort of work through them. Uh, I'll never forget the day of the full moon eclipse. I was an ill motherfucker all day. I mean, I was ready to go to war.
Now, was that 2 or 3 days ago?
Yeah, dude, it was horrible. And what's really sad is that I have a really good friend of mine that apparently he apparently he had a bad day too. And so it was left up to me to calm him down. And I was just like, you know how you put a fire out? Add more fuel than that fire can fucking handle. Let it blow itself up and out. And I went with that, and it actually worked. And we were both able to just kind of like, throwing stuff at one another and just totally burn it out.
Don't poke the bear.
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, I feel like poking the bear.
But one of the interesting things is what I was saying though about the whole, should have known this over the time, is that when I was younger, I've died 3 times in my life and came back every time. Once from a car accident, not getting help in time, and twice from drowning. And it definitely makes you closer to the death current. It really does. I don't suggest go out and do something foolhardy or stupid. But for those of us out there who have had these experiences in life, and you know exactly who you are, and I know who you are, if we've talked about it, of course. But the thing is that it creates that connection. And so when I was younger and I was coming up and I was first coming into the magic, it automatically made sense that everything has to die. Your old way of thinking, your old way of being, so forth and so on. And like I said, 2.5 weeks of just what the fuck when I really should have, I should have placed it on that altar. I really should have, sight and all that. But the thing is that for myself, I look at death as I think the best term I've heard it put yet is Magickal, which is a form of time. And I heard had another friend explain to me or describe to me their viewpoint of death being equated to time itself.
Yep.
And I can hear the arguments now about how time doesn't exist and blah 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 and yakety schmackety. Who gives a fuck? But I'm just putting.
I'm going to argue that it does, but go on.
Yeah, well, it does if you wear a wristwatch or you have to live the 9 to 5 life, or you have appointments or anything. I mean, if you have bills, you live by time, whether you're aware of it or not, whether you want to accept it.
Yep.
But anyway, and then I don't want us to go in that direction here.
Yep.
But the thing is that there are so many things you have to think of it as the part of you that you don't want to be, the part of you that doesn't serve you, the part of you that doesn't serve your highest and best good. And a lot of people get confused with that statement because they think that it means you've got to be like this loving, kind person. What if you're not a loving, kind person? Well, guess what? That will naturally come out. And I'm not talking about these people who are driven by their ego, who think they're gods and know-it-alls and everything else, and they don't know shit. I'm talking about the people who genuinely, there are a lot of jaded people that walk this earth that are holding on to a lot of pain, either from, being abused one way or another, so forth and so on, society structures, the whole 9 yards. It doesn't really matter how, but they've been abused some way, and they hold on to that pain. Well, to a degree, that pain is instrumental in giving you the momentum and the drive and the fuel for transformation. However, the part that poisons the system is the part that is not for your highest and best good. And that's why you would use statues like this is just a small version. Death, you would offer it up to death itself and give it that part. And in that moment, you have to fully feel that pain. You have to re-experience it in your mind. You have to, go through that moment when that intense fucking feeling of what the fuck and this is wrong and this shouldn't happen to me and why is this happening?
Yeah.
I don't care if you were bullied coming up. I don't care what your thing was. You need to relive that and you need to give it. And there are going to be people who are like, well, how do I let it go? Because it sounds a lot like, psychotherapy and like how to, do this and how to do that. You'll know when you've let it go. You'll know when you haven't let go of the memory, because you need to hold on to the memory, because it's only through remembering that it doesn't happen again or that you don't allow it again. Like I said, that is your fuel, that is your power. And you don't give away your power. But what you do get rid of is that feeling of helplessness, that feeling of weakness, that feeling of worth, of self-worth.
The emotional attachment.
Exactly. So go ahead.
I mean, what I was gonna say is, like, if anyone's watched my channel recently, yeah, and it's been like 2 months ago now, but I lost my cat, and I mean that I've kind of always known that, like, that the only thing that's permanent in life is the fact that it's not permanent. Yeah, I mean, that's
mouthful, but yeah, you're right.
And just that was such a reality check for me that I really kind of started stepping into the idea of non-permanence and more of like what's on the other side, and kind of taking the training wheels off and saying, pardon my French, screw this, which is why I'm focusing on a lot of different things. I'm writing a fiction story right now as opposed to my magical texts. So I'm taking a little bit of a break from those. So, if you have nothing to lose, why not try something new? But one of the other things you were talking about was that death is the part of you that you don't want to be. And I've been doing some research, like a lot of research and such on archetypes for videos for my channel. And Jung described the shadow as the part of you that you don't want to be. And it's not necessarily just the bad parts. Like, if you're a good person, you occasionally get angry. Yeah, that's the angry part is your shadow. But you could be a really, really nasty person the majority of the time, But when your niceness happens to slip out, that is also your shadow. And I mean, we have these there's the persona and the shadow, right? Those two opposites. We also have life and death. Those are opposites. If you study a lot of symbolism and just look at life in the way of opposites, in terms of this is what life is, this is what I want it to be, this is how I acted, and this is how I wanted to act differently. All opposites. And if you have that kind of viewpoint, it gives you more of a direction on what you should work with in terms of what you want to give life to and what you need to give to death.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Because you have to consciously design your life. You have to consciously design your spiritual self.
If you don't design itself,
your physical magical practices, what it is that you've adopted into your belief system, so forth and so on. And that's all connected to death.
Yep.
I'm trying to go back up here because I want us to kind of stay in line with these questions because
yeah, I did want to comment on one thing because Milton said it's not about letting go, it's about accepting. I would argue that they're kind of both the same thing, because if you don't accept that something happened, you can't truly let go of it. There's so many people that they say that they're over something, but they're really not.
And that's that fine line that I was talking about. Like, I can think of all the ways I was done as a child coming up, so forth and so on. And I can also, on the same hand, think about the things that I've done to others coming up, because there's no difference. I don't have a distinction in my mind between, it's all this person and all these people. I looked at everything from all angles, even as a child coming up. And I don't know why I was like that. I have no idea where that kind of thinking came from. I don't know how that developed, but I was always conscious about the way I treated people and why I treated certain people the way I did.
Yeah.
There were some people I could for the life of me explain why the fuck I didn't like them whatsoever fucking ever. It had nothing to do with them. Was just cruel and mean every chance I had.
Yeah. I saw another comment. If I could respond to it. Is that cool?
Yeah.
There was this one question which is a tiny bit off topic, but I'm just gonna take it because I wanted to respond to it. About why are my books so expensive and why can't I make a $4.99 ebook?
Yeah, Nick, why can't you do that?
I mean, look, it's the amount of effort that I put into such things, honestly, because I mean, you gotta understand when you're working a full-time job and your every waking minute that you have in terms of when you're not actually like making your own money and you choose to put that free time into creating books and content for people, I would say that that my prices are correlated to both the effort that is put into those books as well as the amount of content, which is why Handy Sigil Magic, which is only about 62 pages, but it's actually one of my best sellers, has a lower price than, say, Magical Theater, or why Magical Mastery, which has 2 books in it, is more expensive, because it's the amount of information, it's the amount of effort and information that I put into it, and the amount of knowledge that you're going to get out of it. So let me know if that made sense.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense. No, actually, I'm gonna play the devil's advocate for a second.
Oh, here we go.
Because I have ran across a few people like this who are they like books and all. I mean, they really do. Like, they love to sit there and hold it. But we're also living in a generation where some people, they would rather pay $5, $7 for a digital book that they can read on the go, that'll always be there. You know what I'm saying? That they can view on different devices, different times of day or night, all this, that, and the other. And I got to say, it is helpful to a lot of people. One of the things that I always thought that your books would have done better with is a audio book.
Well, I mean, I do have them on the majority of them on ebook. For some reason, Magical Mastery is too big for an ebook.
Yeah, see, that's kind of weird, but it kind of makes sense though.
I mean, it's too big. It's too big for for an ebook file, I guess. I mean,
yeah.
I could eventually figure out how to do the audiobook part. I mean, that would basically boil down to a lecture, as it were.
Well,
but I'm
maybe if time permits, Nick here, and because I've been diligently working with him here, because I really seriously I want to see his book sales go up, and not because I'm trying to be an advertiser or anything like that, but because I own like 4 of his books. They're freaking awesome. I mean, from beginner to adept, they've got details that remembering is awesome. I mean, sometimes we need the basic primer back, because for some reason we get out there, like for example, how in the last 2.5 weeks I forgot the most important aspect was death. Why did that slip my fucking head? That makes me want to have a post-it note somewhere with the death, is part of the cycle, and just put it all over the place to where like it'll sink back in or something.
Yeah, that's the memento mori you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But maybe we can, maybe moving forward, maybe we can do a lot of things. Proud to see you go on the Angle hardback, because oh man, dude, how long I've been after you to do that?
Well, I honestly couldn't figure out how to do it, but then apparently Barnes & Noble does the hardcovers.
See, that's awesome. But I'm starting at the top here on the questions, okay?
Yeah.
Now, this is before I asked everybody to put their questions in caps. So I'm going to try to catch your questions. If you happen to put it in lowercase, that's fine. I'll try to catch it. But if your question didn't get answered, put it in caps so that I can catch it. So Milton says, if there is an afterlife and he goes to see the afterlife, doesn't that mean that you don't die? Just wondering. Well, let me put it this way. It depends on your school of thought of what you think is death. I kind of go the, I hate to say this because it sounds horrible. Yeah. Horrible and bad at the same time. I come from an almost scientific approach, and here's what I mean by that. If energy can be neither created nor destroyed,
yep,
and you're thinking thought is eternal, the mind is eternal, spirit, so forth and so on. And this struck me as true when I was about 9 years old, when I went to wondering, how the fuck does a soul burn in a lake of fire, and how is that a threat when it's not physical, and the only burning we would experience is if we were physically burnt? You know what I'm saying? So like I said, it really does have a lot to do with the way you think and the way you interpret.
Yep.
These messages, these meanings, these keys, if you will. So I personally, I don't believe that the soul dies. I believe it's eternal, endless, and so on. Symbolic of the infinity symbol. That so goes all of creation. Maybe not in its denser form. Denser form is constantly changing. I mean, constantly shifting, constantly being destroyed and remade, and so forth and so on. The only constant is in the sense, and I'm going to use this term here to describe this, is light. And I'm not talking about like sunlight or overhead light. I'm talking about spiritual light, because it screams existence. And so in that sense, it is the only fixed symbol that we can apply, whereas black or darkness or anything like this represents form, and form is transmutable. It's changeable. It's mutable, changeable. I don't know.
They're the same thing.
It's a word.
Yeah, mutable and changeable are pretty much the same thing, and I would agree that everything is that. Matter and energy cannot be created. It can only be or destroyed. It can only be transformed from one form to the other. Now, there's the idea of what exactly is the afterlife, so to speak. Do we just happen to come back here? I don't know. Do we move somewhere else? I don't know. But from what science we do know, given what you said, that just points to the fact that there's something after this, which is why There's so many people that are afraid of it, and I honestly don't see why, because like what I do with it is, I hold it in front of me, kind of. That's where I'm gonna go. So what? It's like if you're set free in like your favorite store or something, and you're given everything. I mean, you guys ever see this TV show where you go there? People are put in a store and they have a cart, and they're like, you have 60 seconds to grab whatever the heck you can and you want in 60 seconds, and it's yours for free. That's what life is. It's gonna end. Do what you want with the time that you have.
Hell yeah. It's I'm gonna go a little bit more in depth than that.
Yeah.
Take for example, when I was younger and I was in a car accident, I had no control over that whole experience, no control. Being drowned, that is a feeling I will never fucking forget. I will never forget that as long as I fucking live, and I'll never forget the attachment. I remember just all of a sudden calming down and just allowing it, and I could feel the shit.
Yep.
So it all comes down to experience. When somebody's experienced it, then it's something that they don't cling to as hard anymore. But if it's something they have not experienced, that's what causes the fear, and maybe not necessarily fear, but it's definitely what makes them, prone to be anxious over it or to think about it.
I had an experience where my heart was basically just going haywire, and I spent about 6 hours trying to control my heart because I literally thought that it was going to explode at one point, due to anxiety and a whole bunch of other factors. And I had like 16 surgeries when I was little, and I think 2 seizures. So I mean, and even when I was I just throw this out there. I'm a recovered alcoholic who, at one point when I was in a lot of pain because of my own habits, I was laying there wondering if I hurt myself to the point where forget it. And then I'm laying there and I'm like, but I'm still here.
Yeah.
Why am I going to sit here and wait?
Yeah. Speaking of magic and inner alchemy and transformation and all that, I watched you go through that.
Yep.
Trying to break that. There are a lot of things like that. Like, for example, me going through the surgery and shit, and they got me on fucking painkillers and everything. Well, hell, I was on it before surgery, so forth and so on. It's just something you have to will yourself out of. Ritual, magic, shit like that makes it easier to kind of break that connection, that bond to it. But staying consciously aware of something that needs to be changed or done away with, that's the key to that.
Yeah, you have to understand what is helpful to you and what is not.
Yeah.
You have to be aware of your own strengths and weaknesses, and it takes a lot of work on yourself and self-reflection and observing the different things that go on in your life to understand what things need to be transformed and what things need to be kept.
Yeah. It's like, go with these questions here, like, I don't know if Christo Bacon's serious about this. Are there really aliens on Mars? But he capitalized it, so I don't know.
I mean, I was gonna say that's where the Igigi came from. I mean, that was kind of their way station for if you follow Sitchin, but there's people that argue against that. I don't know.
Yeah, right. I honestly, no idea. I guess maybe there are thought forms attached to the planet itself, kind of like how we have elemental spirits. I mean, who's to say that, there's not moon dust spirits?
Or, yeah, iron, Mars spirits. Maybe that's what that face was on Mars.
Oh.
But, like, what entities do you think are good for someone who's trying to work with self self-transformation?
Uh,
It's off the top of your head. Who have you worked with to transform different parts of yourself?
every time, uh, well, it's kind of a mixture. I employed death to take it away from me, but I used the aid of a spirit or a current to fill the space that I'm trying to empty.
Hmm.
For example, on a path, left-hand path, I employed cane, tool cane. As a matter of fact, my weaponsmith teaches armor of all kinds, weaponsmithing, whole 9 yards. So he worked metal, so he teaches metal smithing and how to arm oneself and how to defend oneself, and it's strength of will. So so for example, some of the things that I needed to absolutely get rid of or rid myself of were bad vices, bad people, bad situations, bad this, bad that. And by bad, I mean they weren't conducive to growth on any level.
Hmm.
And so I'd offer them up to death to take and do with them as it would, and then I would invoke Cain to show me how to strengthen myself. First with the witch blood and all that. I like that whole concept. I'm a Luciferian deep in my heart and soul. I really am. I like that whole rebellious spirit, rebellious nature, almost to the point to where it's not self-defeating. It's not like that, but it's almost like somebody can tell me something and I'll listen to them, and if there's wisdom in it, you know, I'll dwell on it a little bit longer than normal. Uh, but it's the whole aspect of letting it go. But the whole element itself, as far as like authors or books or techniques or anything like that, I think is closer to what you're asking. Honestly, probably Christopher Pinzak's. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It has to do with shamanism and distilling the shadow.
Ooh.
Uh, that any kind of shamanism in that sense. But you need to make certain that it's somebody that actually does know what they're talking about, that has absolute ideas of when you remove something, you have to fill it, and so forth and so on. So they have to have good, solid, grounded practices before you just employ them. You don't want to just pick up a book on. You don't want to pick up a self-help book that tells you happy thoughts is the way out of any problem. That's not the way out of any problem.
Yep.
It's the way to strengthen yourself while you're working out of your problem. That's not how you get rid of a problem.
I was gonna say, like, Crystal Pagan Magic was talking about how fire spirits are very good for for alchemy and self transformation and such, which is why I tend to employ the those of the Simon Necronomicon. Like Mala is one of my closest buddies in terms of spirits, I guess you could say, because one of the biggest things that was working against me was my own anxiety and my own fear. And Mala is all about that courage. So I worked with Mala for months, maybe, yeah, months. But I mean, every night around the same time, I would make a new sigil for him, and I would work with him for a minimum of 30 minutes, just trying to recycle, or cycle through all of the all the stuff that I went through that particular day where fear got the best of me, and just kind of handing that over to him as a form of energy exchange. And that was when it really started, when I would have tasks in front of me where I used to kind of just like get really afraid or like put them off, or if it was in front of like other people at my jobs, I'd get nervous and stutter and stuff. And through that whole exchange, I started to get rid of those parts that made me nervous, the parts that held me back, and he filled those in with that passion and that fire to just burn through those situations.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Almost like a patron, I think you could say.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can have a patron. I remember when I was working through the Necronomicon, and they come to the prayer of Anana, where you're like, and you have to give your name there. You know, I such and such, son of such and such. You know, blah blah blah. I was listing off a name of patron, matrons, whatever, just familiar spirits that I work with. Uh, I Arm Mosul, son of Armin, Cain, Lilith, Tiamat, and Kingu. That's mine because those are the forces that I mostly work with. Well, not mostly work with. I work with a shit ton, but those are the main primary ones. Those are the ones that have guided me since day one. Of inner transformation. And I'm not talking about where I'm a nice person. I'm not talking about where I'm a saint. I'm not talking about anything like that. See, that's where a lot of people get confused when they start talking about inner alchemy and transformation and shit. Like I said, they tend to think that you're going to become this guru or an ascended master. You're going to become this or you're going to become that. I hate to tell you this, but there's going to be a lot of people that just become more intelligent predators.
Mm.
And that's just a straight up truth of it. I've met so many people that the only reason that they're on this path, the only reason they're on this path is become better at what they do. It's like a serial killer honing their skills. It's well, that's probably a horrible example, but a lot of people that are on this path, they're not seeking self enlightenment, they're not seeking self betterment. Well, rule number one: be honest with your fucking self. Why are you doing it? If that happens to be what it is, then also be truthful when you're offering up these parts of yourself to death, to the death force, to the death current. Make sure that you're honestly putting up the parts that that you're trying to burn away, that you're trying to dissolve or get rid of. But then also, like
that requires a lot of self-awareness, like a lot of self-awareness.
Well, I don't think that when you're talking about inner transformation or becoming or any of these fancy words that we use, I don't think that they can be done externally only. I never have. It all starts from within. How do it's I hate to say this, but it's like somebody who's like, I don't believe in miracles unless they fucking happen.
Yep.
They can see 100 miracles drop and they're still not convinced that those were miracles. What the fuck? Is that because they have lack of vision? Is that because they have lack of faith and so forth and so on? And there's another funny word, faith. You bring up faith, and the first thing they're thinking is that faith is you trying to convince yourself of a fucking lie. Well, first off, you have to have faith in yourself. Is that a fucking lie? So a lot of the times you need to change your definitions of these words. And second off, you need to make sure that you surround yourself with people who not necessarily agree with you, but people who aren't there to destroy your belief system. Because when you're first starting off and you're first doing this shit, you're in the most fragile baby stages. From whatever happens from here on, can be the result of a bad choice of people you surround yourself with, of from anything from negative people who want to sit there and tell you, oh, that's a lie, blah 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 blah. Well, first off, this is your fucking life, not their fucking life.
Yep.
You can't sit there and live your life to somebody else's decree or design. You must live your life to your decree, your design. And if you don't know what it is that you believe in, sit down and fucking create something.
Or find something.
Yeah, well, yeah, and once again, that comes back to that internal. You got to find what it is inside yourself first.
Yep.
The whole concept, know thyself, is integral in everything that we're sitting here talking about. Like you did a video not too long ago about the about magic and toxicity.
Oh yeah, I liked that one a lot. That was a good one.
It's true. A lot of the things that we think are healthy for us are actually quite toxic.
Oh.
How
Yeah,
did you discern what was toxic and what was healthy for you?
you know, and you touched on it with people that do magic just to kind of stomp on other people. You know, that's another form that's not it's toxic. You know.
And Lolan Ashin, I can't pronounce that last name. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to butcher it. Yeah, the name of the book is The Temple of Shamanic Witchcraft, Shadow Spirits, and the Healing Journey. It's year 3 of the Temple of Witchcraft series. My wife is about to start year 2. And I don't talk about Christopher Pinzak because my wife's taking it. I talk it because I've read those books and I'm just sitting there and I swear that they're so closely knit to what I fucking do, and I'm sitting there going, "What the fuck," you know?
Oh yeah.
So anything by that man is just fucking gold.
You know, and I don't know. I had a thought, but
I know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
no. I had one for a second, and then it just poof.
With the toxicity of magic, though, here's my question.
Yeah.
What did you find was toxic for you, and how did you discover this in the magic?
Okay. For around the same time that I discovered magic, I discovered drinking, to be honest. And so they kind of came hand in hand a little bit. And so I spoke about this in my videos, and I also have a video on and it's also a section in one of my books about the use of substances in magic, where it's like magic is like, you know, you have the hose in your garden, right? Where the energy's flowing. You just got to direct it. The use of substances is like taking a wrench to the end of a fire hydrant and just opening it up, and you know it sprays all over the damn street. It can amplify, yeah, but you're scattered. You're draining your physical form. You're draining your energetic body. There's even like, I know that there's been articles on this where alcohol in particular is like a spirit stealing or spirit removing substance, right? Why do you think that when we stick plants in alcohol, it's to pull out the essence of it? That's the same thing that it does to our bodies. So for a while, I could only actually do magic when I was in that state, you know, and so I had to break that association with it. I have met a bunch of people that like impulsive magic, which I've done a couple of times. That never turned out very good. I also have a video on impulsive magic that explains that kind of stuff, because I blacked out a couple of years of my life. I told you about this. You actually helped me with that. And the very first spell that I did, which was impulsive, took my voice away for a week. You know.
Was that when you were like horse and stuff?
Oh no, I did it the night before my 21st birthday. I woke up on my 21st birthday, no voice.
Damn, dude.
All scratchy, no voice. I didn't go to class for a week. I could not talk any of that stuff, and that's because it was a binding spell, and I was foolish with the way that I framed the intention. It kind of had a bad, like, you know, if I could have do the same thing nowadays, I wouldn't, which is why I tend not to do anything like baneful or negative anymore. I don't do anything towards anyone else, period, at all, because I just don't want to touch the possible karma, even though that's not the exact term that I would like to use.
Let's touch in on that. Just a minute. And to do so, I'm going to go up here with Milton Knowles here.
All right.
Is it true that if you banish, you must invoke? And if you invoke, you must banish? If you're going to banish anything, I don't care if it's a bad habit, I don't care if it's an enemy, I don't care if it's a stray thought. Whenever you're going to get rid of something, invoke. Always invoke. Invoke its opposite.
Yep. Think of it as like, you know, if you have a body of water. If you remove water from in a bucket, what happens? Other water comes in to fill that hole. You have to replace it, otherwise something will take that space.
And then he was saying, you know, and if you invoke, must you banish? I'm going to tell you, it's not a bad idea to do that.
Mhm.
I just learned something from somebody in chat. This is so cool. I never thought about it because whenever I banish, I always invoke, but I never thought of the opposite of that to invoke or to banish when invoking. That's interesting. That's a hell of an idea right there. I could see where that would be effective. So let's say, for example, I'm trying to invoke peace. Well, I'm going to need to banish what is fighting against that peace. So yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I I have an ego, but it's pretty well balanced. It's not. I'm not above saying that I never thought of something, or trying to pretend like, oh yeah, I knew that. I was just testing you. I do that sometimes as a joke when people tell me something I didn't know. I'm sitting there going, I knew that. I was just testing you. But it's a joke in my head. It's not serious. But the reason why I brought that up is because it was a question he had, but it's because of the next statement he makes. The only reason I'm on my path is just to be better in all aspects of myself, and I'm very successful at it in my personal, and I'm guessing, and very humble. Uh, I want to approach two areas at one time with what you were talking about there, Nick. Towards what you surround yourself with, and at the same time help Milton there out just a bit. So we call ourselves black magicians, or we call ourselves this, or we call ourselves that. It doesn't really matter what it is. It doesn't matter what school of thought we hail from. If you're against the natural order of things, schools of thought, so forth and so on, that is that rebellious spirit of Lucifer. Don't let anybody tell you fucking differently. Don't let them judge you just because you're not dressed in solid black, and sporting the inverted pentagram and all this other shit. So first off, fuck the haters. And so first things first, I'm going to say that uh, the thing is that you are what you surround yourself with. You are what you are consumed by. If you're always consumed with hatred, jealousy, anger, vengeance, if this is what fuels you, if this is what drives you, if it is like your day in, day out thing, guess what you are going to draw to you?
Yup.
You're going to draw those things. That's why it's so important to do this. You don't have to be one of those moody emo kids. You don't have to be a cool, you don't have to put on a show for anybody. You don't have to let your ego out into the show to, hi, I'm this great big blah, blah, blah. Who gives a fuck? You're not shit as long as you're showing. As long as you're talking and putting on the show, you ain't shit. It's what you do when nobody's fucking watching and nobody can hear you.
Yep.
That's when you truly are who you are and what you are. It's one thing for somebody to notice or to appreciate it or something like that. But it's another thing. If you've got to go out there and put on a show, uh, that is the only disagreement I have with concerning the argument of being humble, being a weakness. Being humble is a spiritual gift. It is a fruit, if you will, of spirit itself. Yeah, more like a fruit of the spirit more than anything. Humbleness doesn't come from weakness. Humbleness comes from knowing yourself and accepting the way things are. You don't have to go along with it. You don't have to like allow it into your life, but to recognize it for being in its place and still being who and what you are. That is called humble.
Yeah, that's one of those like free from attachment things. It's
Yeah.
also being accepting when something comes along, and if you want it to be different, then your own abilities and your own powers and your own way to change those things.
The only time that you will ever notice that being humble is attacked is when it is somebody who is led and ruled by their ego. And then to them, they do not understand the ways of spirit. They are caught in the realm of matter.
Well,
These are called the cast offs, the slaw, the excrement. This is fruit that appears of those who have delved into the clip off without understanding the tree of life first. Those who have not ascended to the stars before descending, as in the Necronomicon practices. What I'm saying? You've got to learn to work through that, but they're the only people that are going to argue that point with you.
I mean, one of the reasons why is because somebody that's ruled by their ego, they're constantly looking to feed off of something. And if you are humble and not being reactive to them, you are not giving them anything to feed on.
Yeah.
And they do not like that, and they are trying to effectively just push your buttons. I mean, for lack of a better term, you could kind of compare them to psychic vampires almost.
Yeah, and it's Christo Pagan. I'll message you after, man. I saw that message earlier, buddy. Patchwork. I've struggled with arrogance for a while now. Well, Andrew, let me tell you right now, brother. Arrogance is a point of pride, and there's nothing wrong with pride. You must take pride in everything that you fucking do. Now, when your arrogance is at the cost of others' feelings, so forth and so on, like if you have to attack somebody, feel good about yourself, that to create that pride or that arrogance, as you want to call it, then there's a problem. But brother, arrogance by itself is fine. There's nothing wrong. One of the practices in the left-hand path concerning spiritual predatorialism, like if you're following the path of the vampiric path or the lycanthrope path or any of these other weird predatorial type paths, one thing you're going to learn is that they like to classify things into two categories: predator or prey. Now, they don't do this because you're supposed to adopt it and always have this mentality. They're teaching you how to apply your pride to rise above these other people, these other things, so that you're more seated firmly in your sense of who you are, your sense of self. Now, there are a lot of pitfalls that go with that, and if you don't have a good teacher with it, what will happen is that it'll become imbalanced, and when it becomes imbalanced, arrogance becomes cruelty, and cruelty is the fading away of power.
One of the things that I kind of want to add is you got to live comparison free. If you compare yourself to somebody else and you see yourself above them, then that would kind of be arrogant. If you see that somebody else is not as far as along as you, and you want to help them, that's awesome. But if you compare yourself to somebody else and they're better than you, what does that breed? That breeds negative emotions. That breeds jealousy and stuff. But if it's the other way around, you're like, ha 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 ha. That's the arrogant round. Like you said, there's nothing wrong with being confident in yourself, because that's what can power the stuff that you do and can help your accomplishments. I mean, would you rather be on the flip side and just, would you want to walk around like Charlie Brown all day? Or Eeyore? Just nothing in the world going right. Everyone here at one point has been that person that has rolled out of bed and, on the wrong side of the bed and said that their morning sucked and the entire rest of their day sucked. You're much more likely to have a good day in the event that you overlook those things.
Yeah. Two things. First off, thank you, Christian Krashik, for the subscription. I think that's what it's called. But there was something I wanted to address concerning arrogance and stuff like this. So let us take, for example, I do not have a low self-esteem. I have a very strong sense of myself. I'm come across as arrogant a lot of times. Usually not in front of a camera. Usually not, around a group of people or anything like that. But let it be something that I am truly trying to make a point or get a point across about. My arrogance can flare up. And here's why: because I take such a pride in myself, not just my self-worth, but in doing the work, both the inner and outer work, because one are the same. It's like you breathe in, you breathe out, you breathe in, you breathe out. Magic and mundanity should not be separate. They should not be different. They're one and the same. I go in there and make a pot of coffee, man. That's a fucking magical moment. If nothing else, I love the fucking smell. It's like a natural fucking incense. It goes, wake up, Waylon, and I'm awake.
What a shot.
Yeah, it's like, come hither, bitch, and the bitches come hither. That's me and my coffee. But, arrogance is a really funny subject, because it's one of those things where you need to have pride. I mean, you must have pride. I don't care if you weigh 400, 500, 600 pounds and you don't like the way you look. That's fine and dandy. Do the work to lose the weight. You know what I'm saying? Do the exercises, do the diet, all this other stuff. But don't beat yourself up. Don't tear yourself down because then you're fighting against what you're trying to do. You're
Yep.
actually harming yourself, not helping yourself. Okay. This can go from anything from weight to behavior to anything.
You know, that's one of the things the brain doesn't understand the word not, and you know, it's almost like I don't want to be overweight, right? Your brain hears everything but the not part because your brain works in associations and not negative in a way, even though opposites are the easiest linguistic associations for your brain to find. So if you want to change something, you got to construct a different way of looking at it. Rather than, I do not want to be overweight. I want to be fit, right? You gotta frame it that way. I mean, we are talking about like transformation and all this other stuff. But like you said, you have to be comfortable with where you are because if think of it this way, you need a firm footing before you take the first step.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was a worshiper of death before I was a worshiper of anything because I've lost a lot of people in my life. A lot of people have. A lot of people have lost a lot of people in their lives that they love to care for. Relationships that have ended, friendships, the whole nine yards.
Mm.
Whatever. Uh, but for myself, that feeling of memory, that there would be no new memories created, made me love that person even more that had died and left, and therefore I began to understand and love death on a whole other level.
There is
We were talking about the necromantic ritual book earlier by Lila Wendell. One of the things that it tells you in that book is that to greet death as a long lost lover. And to do that, you have to have an emotional connection. And how do you create an emotional connection to death itself? But through remembrance of those that you've lost. Maybe you've lost parts and pieces of yourself that you're like, well, I'm not the same person I was.
Yep.
I'm not the caring, happy-go-lucky, free person. That is your connection with death.
There is two two things. There is a Sumerian proverb that I actually put on the side of my kayak. You do not think of what you have gained; you only think of what you have lost. And that goes along exactly with what you were saying. And then you were just saying about different things that have kind of changed you, and that's a connection with death. Years ago, I was a super social person, very, and I know it's very hard for you, sir, to believe.
Yeah, right.
See, because he knows me as a very introverted person.
Introvert is a motherfucker. And Nick, you want a video chat? Oh, I'm tired, man. I got something to do. Oh, look, there's my kitty cat.
Oh, here's me. Here's the bus, and but that was until something very tragic in my life happened, and I became extremely reclusive for about a year, and I've literally come to learn that part of me died for lack of a better understanding of it.
Yeah. There was like Lola Nine Shine is saying, "I'm the greatest not." It's kind of like when you're working with certain spirits, jinn, demons, stuff like this nature. You have to be careful what you ask for. You have to nitpick the wording and so forth and so on, and you have to make sure that your desire is actually gotten across. Fuck you, Nick. Iced coffee is not coffee. We have had this conversation.
This is an ongoing debate, sir.
Fine. You ever come visit me, I'll buy you one. But I'm going to enjoy my coffee hot, thank you. But anyway, so where the hell was I, dude? You got me with that damn iced coffee concept. Confuse me. Anyway, you're so
I am the greatest not comment.
yeah. But you got to be careful of the wording, and you got to make sure that it gets across properly, so that you actually get the desire. Well, not even if you're working with demons or jinns or spirits of that nature, but it's like you have to mind fuck yourself. It's like, these are not the droids you're looking for type thing. Only you're doing this to yourself. So how would you go about, doing this in a manner by which you could bypass it? Because that's what it's called, bypassing. You have to bypass your own ego. You have to bypass your own defense system. How do you do this? Well, you should be the only one that can get past that. But the idea is to sit there and instead of thinking about what you don't want or what you don't need, only think about what it is that you do want, what it is that you do need. And these are the things you're going to employ them as mantras. And this is the key to reprogramming. This is the invoking. And the banishing happens when you replace the old with that.
That's a very, very good way of putting it. I mean, if you think about it, if you're gonna throw out a piece of furniture in your house, chances are you're shopping for something that's gonna replace it before you actually get rid of whatever the heck you have. You got to know where you're going before you leave where you came from. Nobody just goes on. Okay, arguably, but nobody just randomly drives off into the night. Unless they're just going for a joyride and their eventual destination is their house, but that completely destroys the analogy. I mean, that's why in all of my work with the 50 names, I've always had a target of something that a very, very specific target. Every time I've ever done a ritual, it's because of a very, very specific change. And not only just the magic for it, but also have I worked on it before asking, or asking entities for help or doing energy work on my own, then actually planning it and also planning the stuff I'm going to do afterwards. For those of you that have watched my channel, it's the Magical Sandwich. So you got to have those three layers in terms of what you are going to do about what you want to change. And skipping over the gatekeeper can be very, very difficult for some people. One, because maybe there are aspects of themselves that they don't recognize as being negative, and or targeting a behavior that has something deeper to it.
Yeah, it's kind of like not giving yourself permission.
Yeah.
Because when you first step into a magical circle, when you first start doing your work and your rites, your spell work, or anything like that, you've already decided, or as I like to call it, agreed with all the shit in your head that what you're about to do is to achieve something, to get something. And so in this agreement, when this agreement has been made, what's happening is you're actually able to put all your energy and all your thought into crafting and designing and drawing to you, what you desire. One of the really interesting concepts of working with death as a medium, as an in-between. So think of it this way. You want to rid yourself of something. Normally what I do is, I'll hand it over. I'll just give it over. I'll give over the feeling, the thought, everything. I totally let it go, and I'll just give it up, and I'll offer it up to death. Now, I don't sit there, and this is where the invoking, banishing thing isn't necessarily in with it. Whatever you give to death can never truly die, but it can be transmuted, and death is the great transmuter. Death transforms shit from one form into another, and this is why it's important that you involve death in all your workings and everything that you do. Because anything that you're trying to get rid of, or hell, even if you're trying to create something, you need to offer up to death the opposite of whatever it is that's holding you back, that's keeping you from fulfilling your desire, your will. And and that's just one of the that's a little trick to put in your back pocket for another day. Use it. It works. Just offer it up to death. Just for example, you want $100 bill. Give up to death the fact that you're poor, that you don't have any fucking money, that, you know, you don't have any options, opportunities, you know, no ventures, nothing like that. And give it up and just know one thing: death is the great transmuter, the great transformer, changes from one circumstance or situation to another. That's why death has forever and a day been equated to Saturn and its influence and its effects, is because Saturn is the boundaries. It says what is and is not allowed.
Yep.
And that's why when we were working with Nanib out of the Necronomicon, that's why it says he knows the ways of the old ones. You know, talking about Tiamat, Kingu, and Apsu and all them. Yeah, he definitely does know their ways. He knows what lies outside of his boundaries. He's just waiting on you to decide, hey, I want this. But always remember that when you're talking about the death current, you're talking about stuff like this, you always have to be willing to sacrifice something to give something up. So the way to do this in a general manner is to give up the opposite of whatever it is that you're desiring. Maybe even give up the desire itself so that it's always fulfilled, so that it's always there. And this is going to bring us full circle with the word faith that nobody likes to talk about or discuss or to add into anything. But you have to have faith in that. You have to have belief that that's how it works. When belief is held so vehemently that nothing can break it, that's faith. We're not talking about a blind faith, like a blind faith in some God that's judging you or not judging you or whatever. That has nothing to do with that. But when you understand the rules of magic, when you understand the give and take,
yep,
everything is based on sacrifice. Every single thing, nothing is free. Everything will cost you. But it's what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to give for?
Well, everything in the universe is an energetic exchange. Eating is an energetic exchange. Working for money is an energetic exchange. Communication is an energetic exchange. The energy of my voice is going into all of your ears, right? There was one other point that I was going to make, but just lost it. Yeah. Food. I'm gonna use index card next time.
I'm gonna go with something Lolan said here. I just hope I'm not food for the gods and they have just been fattening me up all this time. I'm gonna go into that. That is a very, very, very deep subject, and I'm gonna try to tiptoe my way through the tulips, so to speak, with this one. So let us talk about the influence of the gods and stuff. Do you give all your power and your control to the gods to design your life for you to for all walks of your life? Do you like depend on them for, like, you know, the energy to wake up in the morning, for, you know, to have a positive outlook, to get up and go do whatever it is you have to do, or do you rely on yourself? Because see, that right there is the key to how these gods feed off of things. But gods don't feed off of people. They're not like I did this in a video before where I was explaining the difference between gods and spirits. So spirits, they'll always require offerings, sacrifices, so forth and so on. Whereas gods, they don't need you. They are just what they are.
Yep.
But in the sense of what you're talking about, I understand this on a much deeper level. Because when you start working through the shadow, through the soul of shadow, when you start working through these different aspects, you come to find out that everything in the universe has a design, but at the same time that even the lesser beings have their own personal design. And that's where I'm coming from with trying to answer your statement / question there. But it all comes down to how much do you rely on them and how much do you rely on yourself? Because, like, for example, I'll light a candle, I'll say a prayer, or want their influence, their energies in something, and I'll give something in return, you know, whether it's incense, whatever, just energy of love from my heart. Anything of this nature. And then in turn, I'm not necessarily giving them control over me or my life, but I'm giving them an offering that I'm willing to give and something that I freely feel like giving. And that way there is no fattening the gods up using you as the conduit.
That was deep. I did remember what I was going to say before, because you were talking about belief, right?
Mm-hmm.
I forgot which one of the greats, whether it was Crowley or Alpheus Levy or who, said it, but you can, like, the power of belief, which is my principle number one in magical mechanics, is that you have to believe in something in order for it to manifest, in order for it to happen. And what one of the greats said was that you can believe in something so hard that it has no choice but to manifest itself in physical reality.
Oh, that reminds me of my own personal quote. The universe has no choice but to perfectly reflect the inner world. So that's that's interesting. I like that.
I love how that it has no choice.
It has no choice, and here's why.
I gotta drop quote that.
This isn't pride. This isn't arrogance. This is just
how it is.
Arcana is an old word. It just means mystery. And certain mysteries are not taught anymore in the occult. They're just not. People put out books. Oh, do this, but they never explain some of the deeper things that allow you to get to the point to where you can work these types of magic.
Yep.
And one of them is the fact that you have to realize that you're sovereign. You're spiritually sovereign. So forth and so on. I don't care if you see yourself as a great and mighty archdevil. If you see yourself as a great and mighty, majestic, fierce dragon, I don't care if you see yourself as this angelic host being. I don't care what it is, but once you find out your divine sovereignty, you let that sink in. Let that go into the subconscious. Let it become so strong. And then what's going to happen is that no matter what you do inside yourself, your energy, the energy from your energetic body, literally is giving off vibrations and energies that are in frequency or in tune with your desires, with your true desires. And this is why a lot of people spend so many years working on meditation and stuff, is because what they're trying to do is to clear their fucking mind. They're trying to think only the thoughts they want to think, so forth and so on, so that they can attract these things to them. It's a little bit more advanced than that, but that's a good start. That's a good place to start from, and that's where that comes from.
And I mean, we're talking about like Carl Jung's process of individuation, effectively, where if you are like people that meditate a lot, like you were talking about, where they can control their own thoughts and everything, that is in a way confronting and working with your subconscious, making everything conscious. So all the things that you attract, all the things that you think, all the things that you do are under your control, and therefore everything that happens in everything that happens in your life is something that you attracted or manifested. And one of those things about being sovereign, which I like that you put that in there, because it's about creating your own reality, is, and this is the part that a lot of people don't like to do, whether they're magical or not, is accept responsibility for things that happen.
Yeah, see, and sovereign doesn't mean
you're untouchable.
Sovereign in this sense means that you and you alone wear the crown. You and you alone are responsible for everything that befalls you. And I'm not talking about misfortune, calamity, shit like that. No, I'm talking about when you're in sync and you're in touch with who and what you are, everything that you do is going to be a reflection of that personality.
Yep.
Okay? Whether good or bad. It's just how it is.
Yep.
And the fruits of that are going to come to fruition in your life, whether people like you, trust you, have anything to do with you, or whether you're feared or hated or, despised and, cast aside or whatever. But you take responsibility for that, because that's your personality and that's yourself. And this is part of the crafting of the shadow self, or the shadow as soul aspect. I was learning all this when I was in the second year working with the Ancient Ones, when I was passing into Ganzira's otherworld, where I had to make my stones, 1 stone a month for each of them. I was learning a lot of really cool shit concerning not necessarily ritual workings, but more the anatomy of working in the subconscious. Um, yeah, the black earth, the garden of the gods, as I like to refer to it as. Although there's nothing wrong with black earth, that's just got a really nice ring to it.
You always like the darker stuff.
Well, I mean,
Which is why I don't think you take cream in your coffee at all.
No, I do not.
See, did anyone else call that? Because that I could tell.
That's because we've also known each other for a very long time. Let's see here. Oh, Milton was saying, wherever there is a shepherd eating their flock, I always wonder where the butcher is. I like saying that to Christians that confront me. I've never heard a good comeback to it. There is a secret, and it's not really a secret, I guess. It's either known or unknown. Just depends on if it's been taught to you or if it's something you've ran across. But within inside us lies a distinct parallel nature. We have a lower nature and a higher nature. We have the demon and the angel. Okay, for lack of better words, the higher self and the lower self. Shit, what is it called? The etheric or the fuck. Yeah. The earth and water aspect. But anyway, with these two polarized natures within us, what we have to do is we have to combine the two. We have to make them one and the same. We have to find the reflective nature, and we have to be able to generally, equalize it, harmonize it, if you will. And that's where a lot of that comes in. Is so when you're sitting there and you're looking at the point of view of, you are both the wolf and the sheep, so forth and so on, both lie within us. The idea is that neither nature should be more predominant than the other.
Yep.
Neither is to be denied. Now that's the trick. Neither is to be denied, but they are to be brought into harmony with one another.
That goes with saying that, like, if you consider yourself like very well balanced and everything, and that like a truly unified person is not or a truly sovereign person or a powerful person, that if somebody is that or identifies as that, that does not mean that they don't have a bad day. That does not mean that they don't get angry. That does not mean that they don't have emotions or they let everything wash over them. It doesn't make them a doormat, doesn't make them an angry person, doesn't make them an absolute perfect person. Yeah. And I think that's one thing that kind of escapes a lot of people in spirituality.
Yeah, it's you will always notice an imbalanced individual when you notice that they have all the answers and they're this and that they're that, and they can't point out their own flaws. They can't laugh at a joke at their own expense or anything like this. Those are people who are in contention with their own higher nature, but more in sync with their lower nature, their ego, for lack of a better word. And then you've got some people who are, all light and rainbows and all this other shit, and they haven't met a demon or a shadow that they like, and they don't realize that they are the demon and the shadow. They're at odds with their own lower nature. And then it's, in this day and age, we polarize everything so much that you're either this or you're that's why like why I cling to like a Luciferian perspective, that rebellious nature. I am going to be what I want to be and who I want to be. I'm not going to be who and what you or anyone else wants me to be. I'm always going to be who and what I want to be, who and what I desire to be. And that is the best version of myself. And by best, I don't mean that you're going to like. I mean that I can live with, that I can harmonize with, that, I'm in sync with not just my inner world, but my outer world. Because like I said, there is no distinction or difference in it. And if there is, you need to remove that block and you need to piece them together because that's how they fit. Omnia sunt unum. All things are one.
Bam. Mic drop, man. That's just. See, this is why I love talking to you, because you live and breathe this stuff, and you even have more time to live and breathe this stuff than I do. You know, and
Oh, man.
you got years more experience than I do too.
Yeah, but there's a big difference though, brother. I don't have any books out. You do.
Hmm.
That means that you have a lot more mental clarity and focus on finer points than I do. So say you cannot judge anything by those standards. And that goes back to what you said earlier about not, holding yourself up to other standards and so forth and so on. So you can't do that.
That is true.
But never judge yourself by somebody else. And if you need something to judge yourself by, judge yourself from the person that you used to be to the person you are now. From the belief systems that you used to have to the belief systems you have now. From the way you looked at yourself and felt about yourself then to the way you think and feel about yourself now. If you're one of those people where you have to have something to compare yourself to,
oh yeah, good.
compare yourself to yourself. Never do this to somebody else because for lack of better words, despite everybody trying to be the god that they are and this, that, and the other, we're still just mortals uh, with the same hangups, same catches as anybody else. You know, uh, I chose the term sorcerer because it's somebody that seeks their own fucking path, not because it was cool and catchy and all this, that, and the other. It was something I could vibrate to. It's something that felt natural to me. And so you've got to find your own. If for whatever reason you find that works for you, all I can tell you to do is cling to it. And then, but here's the idea: don't go looking out there in society and looking for somebody to tell you the symbols that fill the area around that tile. Fill it with your own thoughts, your own feelings, what you think goes there. And I learned this over the years from all of you, from all of my friends on here, from all my brothers and my sisters. I didn't just come across that on my fucking own. I sat and listened. I sat and watched, and I was taught this. Whether or not any of you sat there and said the words or not, I learned this from all of you. And so I'm just telling you, instead of taking up a mantle, instead of taking up a title, instead of taking up a role, and looking to find out what that entails or what that means, quit looking elsewhere and look inside yourself and say, hey, what does this mean? What does this mean to me? What does this feel like to me? What symbols naturally feel right for this, for me? Do that and you can never go wrong because it's all about you. It's about your path. It's about yours. Not about mine, not about Nick's, not about, everybody else here. I mean, we're brothers and sisters in this community, yes, we're a family of sort, we're a tribe of sort. But the thing is, no matter how much wisdom we can share with one another, the one wisdom we cannot or that we shouldn't is how you should fucking live your life. You've got to live your life the damn best you can. You want nothing but prosperity and blessings and all this other shit to fall on you. Here's an idea. Find the part inside you that resonates to that and live your life like that. Don't go out of your way trying to, oh, I'm a good person, I'm a good person, I'm a good person. Oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. No, the law of three by three and all this other. Fuck all that shit, man. That's noise. That is noise. Silence that fucking part of your mind. Be the person that you want. And the universe will have no choice but to perfectly mimic the inner world. But you have to create that inner world inside yourself. And that is the formulation of what Nick and I have been sitting here saying about, magical transformation. And I can thank Nick here for the idea of the topic or subject. I knew I wanted to do a live stream. I knew exactly who I wanted to do it with. But have an idea of concept, conversation, I didn't because I've been through a lot of shit here lately. I've had like 3 and 4 doctor appointments a week, man. That is fucking crazy, dude. And sometimes 3 in a day.
Oof.
And then a day and a half later, 2 more. So yeah, half the damn time, man, I'm burnt out, just fucking tired as fuck, physically, because I'm finally getting to where I can finally walk and stuff like that. I'm almost up on I'm on a walker right now, about to be up on a cane, so that's kind of cool, But it's just about, but that's how far I've come from being hard headed and unwilling to just sit back and be like, oh, my body's either going to get better or it's not. Fuck that, man. Nothing gets better. If you don't get up and fucking do it yourself, nothing's going to get fucking better. You cannot wait on the fucking world or the universe or the gods or anything to change any fucking thing.
The universe does not. The universe doesn't do handouts. You know,
Exactly.
that's why like I was saying before, it's an energy exchange. You know, you got to put in. You got to put in the work. Like I'm really focusing my life now on a job that I currently have and my YouTube, which is why I'm still able to keep up with 3 videos a week, which I'm really surprised I'm still doing.
Yeah, dude, you've really been surprising me keeping,
you know,
putting them out like.
Yeah, I'm a week ahead right now, which is actually a little bit. I'm a little bit behind on what I'm usually like 2 weeks or more ahead, but that's also because I've been working a hell of a lot, and so I've also been focusing on. Well, I've been focusing on the job that I have, the YouTube, and the book writing, because I've found that like, well, magic is my passion, so writing about it that sets me on fire. You know, the only thing better than like writing about magic and doing the YouTube videos about magic and then working honestly at a bookstore where I love when people come in looking for magical books, because I get to push my own stuff a little bit and talk about that kind of stuff a little bit. The only thing that's better than all 3 of those is iced coffee. You know, so it's just I surround myself with the things that I like to do, and it was a giant shift for me to change my life, what I want to do with my life, and it was a giant paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Like you said, you got to find kind of, you know, it's following your heart almost.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes it's hard to find your way through that or let go of those other things because of fear. You know, you can't get to your desk, like you can't reach a new location if you don't get far enough away from the shore, right? You know, you got to take that leap of faith. And I mean, I jumped in the air and I'm flailing my arms, and I haven't hit the ground yet, but I don't know. It's fun up here.
Yeah, right. You know, it's you know, there have been times I've wanted to just, you know, back the hell off what I'm doing here, you know, because the further down the rabbit hole you go, the more into your practice you get, you're going to find there's an important role that has to be fulfilled. You have to fulfill the hermit, the role of the hermit. You have to separate yourself from society. You have to separate yourself from the world so that you can always reattune to who and what you are, so that, you know, so that you don't lose sight of what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it. You know, it's like people that work 6 days a week. They're so fucking tired to come that 7th fucking day, man. All their body's still in motion of their regular 9 to 5, 6 days a week, or, you know, whatever the schedule is. But I mean, you get my point. And so in a second, it's the, you know, it's like that. You just got to do that. Uh, but I like Lola and on sign now. I'm coming back as a toad. You know what? That's kind of cool, because if you look at the toad, it's a jumper between the worlds, according to Andrew Chumley, which is kind of cool. But brother, are there any thoughts you wanted to kind of wrap this up with, man?
I mean, you know, I did just say a hell of a lot of my own personal experience with with self transformation, but I think the biggest thing is being aware of yourself, of who you really are, which requires a lot of self stalking. Jung thought of this idea, or the idea of understanding the self, as exploring your imagination, doing a lot of things like creativity with art and journaling and things like that to really get those thoughts out, and also paying attention to what other people tell you. I would like to say, because there's a lot of there's parts of me that only other people see. I don't. I have blinders. Everybody does. Pay attention to those. Take them with a grain of salt, though, because there's those parts of yourself, but then there's the parts of yourself that only you know. And whatever you want to do with those, if you want to keep them around, go for it. But if there's something that you want to change, figure out what you want to replace it with. And no matter how long it takes, keep fighting against that thing that wants to stay, that you want to get rid of. you know, and that it can be a very, very hard thing to transform yourself. But, you know, the rewards of being able to transform certain aspects of your life and living the life that you want to live is much, much more worth it than just taking the easy route and sticking with the things that are status quo.
Yeah, for real, right? Hell yeah. But if y'all, I don't know if some of you may or may not know about Nick's channel, Magickology. We'll put it down in the comments section below the video so that you can go check out his website or his YouTube channel. I mean, so forth and so on. One of the coolest motherfuckers I've had the pleasure of knowing, and also one of the co-founders of the Black Tower itself. You know, so this is one of my boys. Hopefully we can get David in here one night, man, because
it'd be so good. I haven't talked to him in ages.
I know, right?
I missed that, bro.
Hell yeah. But I just want to say thank you to each and every single one of you for coming out tonight. It's fucking awesome having you here.
This was awesome.
Well, Wolf, I'm glad you like it, man, dude. I really do. And to all of you out there, man, you know, peace, blessings, and power. Till next time.